It's 10 now and 19 have joined. So should we start?
Yes, sir. Anytime.
So, good morning, participants, and good morning, Professor Madina. Today we are lucky to have Professor Laldinliana. He is a professor in Department of Commerce, Mizoram University. Is one of the colleague of mine in my department. At the same time, he is director of Incubation Center of Mizoram University. So the business idea is incubating there, and his interest area is entrepreneurship, research methodology, statistics, um, and package statistical packages he deals with. And today he is going to talk on creativity and innovation. That is another passion of him. He finds it very encouraging when he speaks on entrepreneurship or innovation or these kind of subjects. Anytime, anywhere you call, and he will be ready to speak on these topics. Other topics he may or may not be interested, but this is very much interesting. He's having some other interests also. He's black belt in martial arts. Although the belt, the tie is having is not for a black belt. It is a Mizoram University belt only. Then he's a very good cyclist. Long distances he cover on his cycle. So he's having interest in academics, plus he's having interest in self-maintenance also. So Madina, now time is yours, and you can take up from here now. And
Yes, sir.
meanwhile, I request the participants to put up your questions as soon as it comes to your mind. Otherwise, if you wait till last, you may forget it. So put it so that he may respond to all those things. He loves interaction, but the problem is we cannot have live interaction. So anyway, through me, you can interact. So put up your questions. So Madina, you may take up from now.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for the introduction. And uh, I don't know whether this slide is showing, sir. Is it
Yes,
showing
yes.
now?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
showing. It's showing.
All right. Good, good then. So
Visible
the
screen.
topic, yes, sir. The topic which has been given to me is on creativity and innovation, and I try to be a little bit creative in giving this particular talk. And like what Professor Bartendu said, it is better that if you can interact, and if it is much more better if you can ask questions, that would make the program more lively. And I hope we'll be having an enjoyable 1 hour or so, from 10 to 11:15, something like that. Okay. And today I'll be talking about, I will not be discussing much upon the academic side or the scientific research side of creativity and innovation, but rather I would just like to bring into light what creativity, how creativity can be brought about, how creativity can be viewed as something which is user friendly, which is which is a kind of an entity which can be developed in everyone. So today, that is much of my mission, which I'm trying to bring across to you within 1 hour and one, or maybe something 1 hour, 15 minutes or so. So what is creativity? Like I said, I'm not giving an academic or a kind of a professional or that kind of definitive definitions, but rather I'm just trying to bring into an idea what creativity is all about and how it can be incorporated into our studies, how it can be incorporated into our teachings and all these things. So what is creativity? It's the act of turning new and imaginative ideas into reality. It is about generating ideas, the ability or talent to create something. So this is basically what we used to think, and rightly so, what creativity is all about. It is something to bring. It has something to do with bringing out something, a novel idea, something which is new, and incorporating that into the practice of something. That is what creativity is much all about. Uh, it involves two processes. That is what they used to say. The first part of creativity is the thinking part, and the second part of creativity is called the producing part. But the producing phase is what we call innovation. This part I will go a little bit maybe in the periphery of my talk, yeah, after much of what innovation, I mean creativity has been discussed. Because I do feel that creativity is the fuel. for innovation. And at the end, the last and or the end aim which we are going to have is innovation. So today I'm going to discuss a little bit about innovations and more about creativity. Suppose if I ask the participants here whether you are creative or not, you may be giving me uh, different answers. Some of you might be saying that I am creative. Some of you might be saying that I am not creative at all. Some of you may say I don't know. All right, and but I feel every one of us are quite creative at some point, at least at some point of our time. I can still remember my high school days when I was in my class nine. That was in St. Paul's. It was in around 1994, 95, 1993, 94. 1994. All right, 1993. And during that time, I hate mathematics, really, really hate mathematics. And at the beginning of the year, I was there in St. Paul's, and they have given us the timetable, the routine for the whole week. On Mondays, these are the classes. On Tuesdays, these are the classes. Wednesday, and so on and so forth. And to my horror, I should say, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, when they gave out the routine for the year, for the month, for the week, on Tuesdays, they have put two classes of mathematics, one on Tuesdays and one on Thursdays. And like I said, this is going to be one of the most terrible days of the week, which I'm going to face that year. Because, like I said, I dread and I hate and I loathe mathematics during the time. I'm saying during the time, all right? Not now. And so what happened was that I started to think, how can I survive this year, this class nine, without getting through the torture of having two mathematics twice a week? So my mind starts walking. It starts to walk a lot. And I thought of a solution, which none of my classmates would dare to go on, would dare to venture into. And so what I did is that, all right, on these Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have to run away from school, right? You all are teachers, so I'm just sharing this because you are not going to run away from schools anymore, all right? So what happened was that I was starting to think, how can I escape from the school on Tuesdays and Thursdays? And in St. Paul's, in my high school, the practice was this. They used to give us the student handbook or the diary at the beginning of the year, and they ask us to get the specimen signature of our guardian or our parents, who will be the sole authority to sanction us leave, whether it's sick leave or any other leave. So at the beginning of the year, when I received my handbook, my student handbook, instead of giving it to my parents, I just wrote father's name. My father's name is Laldinliana Varte, mouthful for the non-Mizos anyway. So Laldinliana Varte, and at the slot beyond that, I gave my own signature. And there's another slot, and there's another line where I have to write my mother's name and signature. My mother's name is Laldinliani. Ironically, they have the same name. I'm not saying that they are searching themselves through matrimonial using the same name as a kind of a variable, not like that, but coincidentally it happened. So my mother's name, Laldinliani. Then at the small box beyond that, I signed my other signature. So that means for the whole year, I have a free pass. So I did manage that year without attending much of Tuesdays and Thursdays because on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I always ran off from my school. And the next day, Wednesday, I wrote a leave letter saying that, all right, my son Laldinliana has had a fever yesterday, had an eye sore yesterday, had a dysentery, a diarrhea, all those kind of diseases which a student might be getting at that age. So all of those diseases I wrote, and almost all through the year, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I did escape from the school because, like I said, I don't want to be there getting tortured with the mathematics and the numbers written down on the blackboard. So what happened was, even though I did escape from the school for the whole year, on those 2 days, at the end of the year, karma or fate, uh, I mean, it caught up, and I failed in that class nine. So I had to repeat my class nine. And the second year of my class nine, my repetition, I did not go ahead playing with creativity anymore, running away from school. I did learn my lesson. But what I was just mentioning, my experience is because that is creativity. Because I'm bringing in something new, which none of my friends would dare, like I said, would dare go into, but I did dare, and I thought about that solution, and I brought in some solution also, like getting my signature in the slot for my parents, for my guardians, so that I can get a free pass, always a free pass whenever I ran away from school. So that is creativity in that sense, because it's something which is new, something which is challenging, something which is novel, all right, which others are not planning to do. But at the end of the day, that's a very impractical creativity. It is creativity, but it's impractical because I failed, because that year I did not learn anything much on mathematics. So I have to fail. And when I repeat the class nine, like I said, this is a learning experience, even though creative, even though creative should not repeat. So what happened is that the next year, that creativity part is gone. All right. But what I'm saying is that that is creativity, but it's impractical. It is creativity, but it is not innovation. Because, like I said, innovation is the producing phase of creativity. In other words, the practical part of creativity is what we call innovation. All right. That is the main difference between creativity and innovation. And why I am mentioning about creativity and innovation a lot whenever I give my lectures, whenever I'm invited for talks, this is one of the dimensions which I always try to bring about, is because everything, almost everything, I should say everything, begins with creativity. And if you're not creative, then you tend to be boring, all right? You tend to get old, you tend to be primitive, you tend to become a dinosaur. Last night, my daughter was asking me, Daddy, are you born in the 90s? I said, no, I'm born in the 70s. Then she was asking me, how do the dinosaur look like? I said, yeah, that's great. That's quite creative, but don't compare me to be a dinosaur, because in the 1970s there are no dinosaurs. Maybe in the 60s, I told her. Anyway, uh, so that is what creativity. See, creativity is the fuel for everything. You look at right now. I'm looking at my screen. Right now, I'm looking at my camera. Right now, I'm looking at my, my light. Uh, and everything around me is based on creativity. If someone is not creative, all of these things will never happen. Internet will never happen. Computers will never happen. All the things which we're having right now would not be happening, because if no one is creative, these things will not happen. Okay. I'm just wearing this shirt today because I just want to show you something. If you look at my shirt, which I'm just wearing now, it is made out of the traditional Mizo fibers, all right, the cotton fiber which the Mizo yarns. But the design is Chinese, all right. It has a Chinese collar. It has a Chinese uh, frock. What do they call this? Frock button. They said it. So this is actually a Mandarin design using a Mizo cloth. If you look at the designs, if you look at these motifs and all these things, these are Mizo designs, all right? But the whole this designing of this cloth, particular cloth, is a Chinese type of clothing fashion. That is creativity. Like I said, anything which we can bring into existence, which have never been existed before, this is what we call creativity. All right. I cannot stress enough on creativity because, like I said, it's everything, almost everything. Creativity is important for those people who are doing business. Creativity is very, very important for us teachers, because we have to make our lectures creative, is not it? Unless and until it is creative, we cannot get attention. Uh, I am from the commerce background, and I used to teach marketing. And in marketing, we have a hierarchy of needs model, all right. And in the hierarchy of needs model, we used to segregate three phases. The first phase is called cognitive stage. And the second phase is what we call the affective stage. And the third and the final phase is what we call the action. So these three phases are, like different modules are postulated to fit in these three phases. One such interesting model is what we call AIDA. AIDA, AIDA. A stands for attention, I stands for interest, D for desire, and A for action. So as a teacher, how do I draw the attention of my students? How do I build and, and capture the interest of my students? How can I get my students to desire more on my topic and my lectures? And at the end of the day, how do they respond? How do they absorb my lectures and the subjects and the knowledge which I'm trying to impart? All these things will happen if you are creative. It will happen more if you're more creative, right? And so, how do we become creative? It's not a very big science which I'm trying to bring into. I'm just going to talk about some few things and how you can identify yourself with these things, and we may be able to, incorporate these things to be more creative in your lectures, and the better if you can bring in some business ideas also, all right? So the first thing is that it's not good to say never before it becomes never, all right? And the picture which I'm having right now is a person named Marconi. Uh, I have my mobile phone here, all right? A good mobile phone, which is one of my very best friend nowadays. Everyone's best friend, all right? And this particular technology happened because, let's say, it's a kind of a thing which happened because of this particular Mr. Marconi. There's a sun which is shining inside. Let me just, okay, I think it's better now. Yeah. So this Marconi in the beginning of the 1900s, this person uh, is a person who never said never, I think. And one day out of the blue, he was saying, "All right, let me try to send a message from Europe to Canada, Newfoundland." And he was just dreaming, and I think he must be. Let me dramatize this thing. And he was sharing to his friends that I want to send a message across the Atlantic Ocean, all the way down to the North America, Canada. And his friends, his scientist friends, would be saying, "All right, Mr. Marconi, stop daydreaming, all right, because this is an impossible task which you're trying to do. Because, see, there are true facts, scientific facts, which will not allow you to do your vision of sending a message across Atlantic Ocean. And those two things are: the first one, radio waves travel always in a straight line, all right? Always travel in a straight line. And the second fact which we have is uh, the Atlantic Ocean and the distance between Europe and America. It's on the other side of the globe, practically on the other side of the globe. So there is no line of sight because the Earth is round, unless you guys are the flat Earth theorist. The Earth is round, so it's impossible for you to send across a message from Europe to North America because there is no line of sight, and radio wave has to travel in a straight line. So it's impossible for you to send a message from this part to the other part of the world. Then Mr. Marconi said, "All right, let me try anyway." Maybe he was just coughing and he was just smirking, like, "Oh, maybe let me try to do it anyway." And one day in December, he said, "All right, let me do that, and let my person there in Canada put up an antenna receiver because he is supposed to receive my message." And what he did is that he sent the message, and to the surprise and the amazement of everyone, they did receive the message there in Canada, Newfoundland. The first truth, the first scientific fact said you cannot do. The second fact said you cannot do. But there was a kind of a transcending third fact, which even though doesn't cancel off the first and the second, but the third fact made it possible to do the impossible. The universe, the earth is surrounded by, covered by the atmosphere, which is having different layers, and one of the layers of atmosphere is what we call the ionosphere. And what he did is that from Europe, he sent a straight line radio wave straight up to the sky. All right, let's say I don't have anything around right now with me, so that let's say this is the Earth. All right, this black thing. Okay, and he was sending a message straight up to the sky. This is Europe, and this is Canada. Let's say this is Canada, and this is Europe. So he sent a message straight up, and it bounced or ricocheted on the ionosphere and came down straight to Canada. The first fact says this radio wave travels in a straight line, which is still very, very much practical. And the earth is round and no line of sight. That is still there. But like I said, he sent this message straight up, then it bounced back down in an angle and bypassed the first and the second fact. And he did send a message from Europe to Canada. So it is not good to say never unless it is ultimately never. And this is important because many people would say, all right, this thing is very good, but the problem is this thing is very good, but we used to have the but almost always. Once I was having an interview with some applicants who are applying for the machine operators for our incubation center. And there was one person from the south of Mizoram who was a quite, quite probable person candidate. And we had a chat for a long time. He was a mechanical engineer, and we start to discuss a lot about how the machines which we have in the incubation centers can be used. But then he started to mention so many buts, like he's coming from all the way from the south of Mizoram. Traveling is a problem. Your machines are put down way down in Tanfil, which is not even proper Aizawl. He has so many buts. Then at the midpoint where we start discussing, in our discussion, I said, all right, let us stop. And I want to restart by pressing the reset button, right? Because up till now, I have been listening to how it cannot be done. So many reasons how it cannot be done. But right now, from the second phase of our interview, I would like to listen how it can be done. Let us think how these hindrances and these hurdles and these problems, I'm going to get back to that in a few minutes, these problems, how it can be solved. I don't want to listen to the problems. I want to listen to the solutions. So I said, let us restart. And we restart and it went on well. All right. So it is not good to say never unless it is ultimately never. And especially in a tribal economy and a tribal society like us in Mizoram, many people would be having so many problems. And these are real constraints. But unless and until it is really ultimately never, I don't think we should say never. We can always find a place, we can always find a way around the problem, the boulders, the rocks. We can go around the rock, we can go around the mountains. 2 days back, I was traveling to the to almost the eastern part of near Myanmar, and I had a good time there. It was around 170 kilometers travel from Aizawl, and there are places where roads were constructed, highways were constructed, and I did see that the big mountains before. Many times I traveled that road before, but these new roads which have been made, they have been going around the mountains which we thought it was informidable, which is impenetrable. But now they found a way around those mountains, and right now, in fact, I may be around 2 months from now, I think they're going to have a very, very beautiful road. And so it's not always good to say, all right, there's a hindrance, let us stop. But for a person to be creative, he has to look into the possibilities. This is what we have to learn from Marconi. Unless and until Marconi, if it doesn't happen with Marconi, we would not be having our mobile phone right now. All right. He is the founder of the wireless telegram. So we should look into Marconi's philosophy. We should never say never unless it is really never. Okay. Let me go to my second slide. Okay. This is a friend of mine. I'm just bringing him up because I want to make him popular. His name is his name is Pumwonsana. He's a very, very good friend of mine. He's the first and the only printing technology engineer we have among the Mizos. And he's one of the head of the printing and stationery departments we have in the state government. Like I said, he's a very innovative, very creative, and very, very versatile person. But why I'm bringing his picture right now is because I have so many things to learn from him. I think it was in 2005 or 2004 when I came back from my college from Chennai. I was involved with the church youth fellowship, and he's one of the elder. He's one of the leaders for the church youth fellowship. And 2004, yeah, it was 2004. 2004 was the year of the 50th anniversary of our fellowship, our organization, and we plan to have some program which is memorable, which can be, participated by every youngsters in the state. So we thought about having a state level quiz competition. State level quiz competition. It was the first reality show type we have here among them in Mizoram. And this person was the chairman for that particular committee, organizing committee. And we had so many times, we had so many sessions of brainstorming. And like I said, we plan to have a live show of a quiz competition, and we engaged two cable operators who are going to broadcast the program live. The program was supposed to be in one hall, and that hall was a kind of a circular hall with the walls decorated in three places with 6 by 6 feet of wall paneling, beautiful wall paneling, wood paneling with wood textures. Except those places where those 6 wood panels are placed, the walls are colored light blue. And this Monsana, he said, all right, because we are preparing for the live show, let us all repaint the whole hall with light blue. Even the wood panels we have at the 6 places, we should all paint them blue. Then we had a kind of a debate because we said, so this is a decorative piece which we are having on the walls, the panels. And these are the panels which really decorates and give a grand, image and grand look, appearance to the hall itself. If we color it blue, then it's going to be camouflaged and we will not see the speciality. We will not be seeing the beauty of the wood panels. Then he said, anyway, let us paint it blue. Then one of our friend, he said, all right, just before we really paint the whole thing blue, let us paint a small part of that one wood panel and see how it looks. Then one of my friends, his name is Mr. Henry. Presently, he's now the joint director of the Commerce and Industry Department. He took a can of paint and he walked down to the wall panel and he painted a very small area of that wall panel, maybe a kind of the size of my fist, all right? And we wait till it gets dry and we start to observe whether it's going to look good or not. And all of us, we conclude that it's not going to look good because we prefer the wood panels to be there so that it will give a grand, grand image, the grand look of the hall. Then after a while, our chairman, Mr. Monsana, he came back and he said, you haven't started your work. Why is it? Why is there a subordination in our rank? He was telling. And we said, see, we have done a sample, we have done a test of painting one of the wall panels blue, a fist size, and we conclude that it's not going to be a nice thing to do, and so we stopped before we do more damage. We told him. Then he said, "All right, I am the only printing engineer which we have among the Mizos. I am practically the master of colors." All right, it is literally he was saying like that. He said he's the master of colors, and so you have to paint everything blue. So who am I to fight with the master of colors? I'm only a master of commerce, right, during that time. So I should not fight with the master of color. So we paint everything blue, all the 6 wall panels blue. And to our amazement, when the colors get dry, everything was looking so bright and so beautiful and so fresh, which we never have thought of before. Previously, the wall panels, the wood wall panels, we thought it was making the hall look grand. But these are the culprits which makes the hall looks dark and gloomy. So when we painted all light blue, everything became fresh, light, and joyful. And we said, "All right, Puem, so you have done a good work. We haven't had the notion of that this kind of effect would come out." And he was telling us something to our amazement. Profound, let's say, philosophical, if you want that word to be there. He said, "See, you people, when you did a sample painting of a small area in one of the wall panels, your view is so myopic," he said. Your view is so narrow that you could not look at the big picture." He said, "I already had a vision in my mind when everything is going to be blue, light blue. And I know that it's going to give us a very totally fresh effect. But you guys, your views are myopic, your views are narrow, your views is very small. And it's already because of the nostalgic notion, nostalgic thought you have, because our wall panels was there for a very long time. You fail to see when it really would be when all the paints when all the walls are painted blue. So the big picture, we tend to have a very small view. I tend to look only at Aizol. All right, I tend to look only at Mizoram. What is happening there in the main India? Mainland India. What happened there in the Asian continent? What happened there in the Western countries? What are there? What kind of things they have been busy with? What kind of technologies they are bringing into in those places? What kind of business ideas? What kind of teaching skills they are having in those places? We have to have a very, very big picture. Unless and until we have a big picture, we can never be creative, right? And now this Monsana, he said, "All right, I'm going to give you another task." He said, "There's a stage in that hall, and I want you to paint everything of the stage black. The walls black, the ceiling of the stage black, the background of the walls, the background of the stage black. Everything should be black." Then we start to think, all right, this person is getting, out of hand. We have never seen a stage which is totally black. But he said, "I'm the master of colors, so you have to do it." So we said, "All right, let us do it. Who are we to fight with the master of color?" So we paint everything, the walls of the stage, all right, the ceiling of the stage, even the carpet of the stage, black, totally black. And when the color gets dry, we found the stage looking very, very dark. It looks like a cave. It looks so gloomy. And now we said, all right, now we are on the upper hand. Let us really give left and right to Mr. Monsana. This time his idea flops. So when Puem Monsana came back, we said, "See, Puem, so look at the stage. It's all colored black. Doesn't look like a stage now. It looks like a cave. Everything is black. So gloomy, so dark. It's not even lively. Who would like to go there on the stage?" Then Pumonsana again, he said something which is very profound, all right? Then he said, "Stage are not to be light. Stage are not supposed to be, like colorful. Because look at the thing which we're going to do. We're going to have our program broadcasted live on TV, if the stage is colored very lively with light colors, you people will be there on the stage, and the stage itself would be outshining you guys because your complexion is like this, your face is like this, all right, and your stage is going to be so beautiful, and the stage is supposed to be in the background, not you in the background. So everything should be black. We are going to hide the stage, he said. If everything is colored black, it's going to be hidden. Not only that, if you write something with a white chalk on the blackboard, it is going to be so clear. If you write something on the blackboard with a blue chalk, it's going to still look clear. Pink, it's going to look clear. So anything before black, except it is dark, I mean black, it is going to outline, it's going to highlight that particular figure. So on the TV, we would like the person who are standing on the stage, who are coming on the stage, to be clear, crisp, and precise on the TV. So if the stage is light, colored, and too much designed, you, the persons who are the more important, the actors on the stage, will never be there highlighted on the stage. So everything, if it is black, the stage will be on the background, you will be highlighted, and that is much more better, and that is much more fitting for the program. Then we say, you know, the moment of enlightenment. We said, aha, and it did really well. When we see the TV broadcast, when the stage is black, the person standing on the stage, the quiz master, he looked crisp and clear, all right, and sharp. If it is other colors, it will not be like that. But if the background is black, then he looks perfectly smart on the TV. That hall has been demolished a long time back, and the church has a new hall after that. In 2014, a new hall was inaugurated, and even the new hall which we have in the church, Mission Bank Church, it is still black, because we had from that learning experience that instead of just looking at the stage, we tried to look from a different point of view, from a different angle, and we found out that a black stage is much more easier to manage. It's much more easier to decorate. It's much more easier for the persons to walk on the stage when the stage itself is black. So try to look at the big picture. Let us shift our point of view. I'm looking from this particular point of view, but if we can shift from other point of view, then you get a whole new perspective. All right, that is what creativity is all about. Shifting your objective, trying to look at the big picture. I think I'm spending too much time on that. All right. This is one of my favorite anime character. His name is Kakashi. He's from the Naruto, anime, and he's one of my favorite ninja. He's called the copycat ninja because he has an ability in his eyes to copy every movement of his adversaries, right? His enemies. He can mimic their movement. So that his name is called the copycat ninja. They used to call him the copycat ninja, Kakashi. All right. And why I used to bring up this picture is because, see, it is always good to observe and copy. When I say copy, I'm not talking about plagiarism. Once I was giving this lecture and people were telling me that this is plagiarism. I said it's not so. Copying as it is without giving credit, that is plagiarism. But what I'm trying to bring about right now here is, if I'm looking for ideas, if I'm looking for practice, bringing out something, purely novel is very, very difficult nowadays. In fact, the National Entrepreneurship Network, uh, when they did a survey in 2018, they said all of the successful business ideas, 96 to 98% of them are a manipulation or an adjustment or modification or, you know, manipulation of existing technologies or existing business. 96% of them. In fact, only 4% of the whole successful business ideas are new, really, really new ideas. That means almost all of the innovation or almost all creativity we are talking about is a kind of a modification. It's a kind of an addition or maybe a subtraction of existing technologies and existing ideas, mostly. And we shouldn't feel bad because we're born in in 2002, in the 2020s. We're now in the 2020s. So there are so many years going back beyond. All right. The 1970s, 1970s and 19 those places where there are so many scientific awakening and knowledge building up. During the time they have so many novel ideas, but now centuries have been passing, and it's always very difficult to bring out something perfectly and uniquely new. All right. So it is always to observe. It's good to observe and copy. Like I say, what is happening there in the States? What is happening there in the Far East? Observe and copy, emulate, take in, absorb all those kind of things, and try to bring it inside. Uh, I was doing my master's in entrepreneurship, I mean commerce, with specialization on entrepreneurship in Loyola College way back in 2000. I mean during 2001 to 2003, and I was there in Chennai. And my aspiration after completing my master's was not to go into government service. Rather, I would like to do my own business, build up my own enterprise. And during the time, during my college days, even I was looking for business ideas. And this observe and copy is one of my favorite mantra because I was there in Chennai and I have to come across many states and many cities coming back to my home state. And so what I used to do is that I used to walk around the bazaar and those marketplaces and used to observe and see what things are there in those places but not there in my place. Many things were there, way more so during the time. And I said, I want to do a business. I want to run my own business. I want to operate and start off my own business. And so what I did is that I observed many of those shops and many of those trading organizations, and I venture a lot, sending them emails, calling them up, talking with the company people, what kind of things I can have for my state in Mizoram. And one particular uh, inquiry came as a reality. I called up the Himalaya Drug Company, the persons who are making the Leaf 52, Pilex, and all these things, the company, that Himalaya Drug Company, you must be knowing that. And I called them up and they said, all right, we're interested to come into Mizoram. And I said, all right, let me operate a franchisee for you. I'll be your franchisee, and let us have a franchisee there in Mizoram. But what we learned is that there is no franchisee in the whole northeastern region. In fact, I am the first and the only franchisee for Himalaya Drug Company till date. I mean, the business is long gone, but I was the first and the only person who has the franchisee license. And we had a good business. Pubatindu, he was one of the, I think he must have, once or twice, he must have dropped into my shop. It was there in Takting. And and that particular business came into Mizoram because I observe and copy. Okay. I observe and copy. During the time, Ayurvedic concept of healthcare and health wellness management was quite alien, was quite foreign to the whole Mizo mindset. And Himalaya Drug Company, since it's a bona fide company, it's a well-known company who's already into the pharmaceutical before. Uh, but with these new things coming up, like say for example, I was talking about the Pilex and all this medicine, they bring in pure herbs like Haridra, Vrikshamla, Sudha Gugulu, Trifala, all these things are Ayurvedic, concepts. And these things are new, and we brought in this concept. Nowadays, you have so many herbal and Ayurvedic concept products nowadays. Himalaya may not be even the major player now. In fact, it's not the major player. But the thing is, like, I was one of the first one to introduce the Mizos, the Mizo people into the mainstream Ayurvedic, proprietary products, herbal products, the benefits of herbals. So observing and copying something which is there in other place and bringing these things into a place where it is not there, that is creativity. So what I used to do during the time is that whenever I read magazines, whenever I read, journals, I used to look into advertisements. I'm particularly interested in advertisements because advertisement is a very good source of getting ideas. So what I did is that, all right, whenever I go and see magazines, and like during the time we have Femina, Cosmopolitan, those kind of magazines, and whenever I go through the advertisement pages, I used to just look for trade inquiries, call so and so numbers, or emails, or websites. So usually I would take a list. I maintain a very huge list of different observations from magazines and whatnots. Those are business ideas. Those are ideas. Those are sources of creativity. And like I said, from those sources, Himalaya Drug Company came as a franchisee to me. Previously, there are Himalaya products, but I was the only franchisee for the whole of Northeast in which was operated in 2005 till 2012. After that, that business has to go because I was the shop, the landowner asked me to move out, so I have to stop my shop. But observe and copy, that is one of the main source of idea. All right. Next, walk out from your box. Walk out from your box. See, as a teacher, always my perspective is teaching. If I look at everything from a teacher or from a lecturer point of view, I tend to give lots of lectures. I have to walk away from my box many times. I have to sit myself as a student. Whenever I give a talk on entrepreneurship or any other topic, even in the church maybe, I used to place myself as the other person, all right, so that I can build up something new. I can build up something interesting. Uh, I have a picture here, the icon or the logo of Intel, the microprocessor giant we have here till date. But previously, Intel company was not a company which manufactures microprocessor. They were manufacturing memory cards. That was way back in the 60s, 70s, and the 80s, I think. And but during the time, even the American companies were feeling the threat of the Chinese uh, growing business giants. Because from China we get technology cheaper than the other places because they can get cheap. I mean, they can manage to produce something cheap because of cheap labor, basically because of cheap labor, and their brains are good. So what they are suffering from the Chinese product. I mean, many imports on memory cards happen from China, and this particular company starts to suffer because here they are producing in America at a costlier price, at a dearer price, and technologically these persons are quite competent. The Chinese are competent and bringing in something which is cheaper, and so their business are declining. It starts to decline. So Robert Noyce and Gordon Moore starts to think, how can we bring back our company, our product back into the market? They could not bring in something new. They could not think of any new ideas. So they say, all right, one out of the blue, one day, these two persons said, all right, let us play a game. Let us quit from our own company, move out from our own company, and look at the company from outside. So what they did is that, all right, they move out from their company office, maybe with their dhaba, maybe with their tiffin, I don't know. They move out from their office set themselves outside and start to look back at their organization, their company, their building. And they start to talk about, oh, this company was doing good during the time when they were producing the memory cards before the Chinese came, and they were doing good. They were paying so and so. They are having a profit of that much that year, that year, that year. They start to discuss a lot about this thing, and they start to critically examine from outside about their company. And since they're out of their own box, they are free to discuss any bizarre and any surprising ideas about the company. And one of these two guys, he said, all right, if this company starts to manufacture, instead of memory cards, if they start to develop or manufacture microprocessor, they may have a chance. So they had the eureka moment there. All right, this company should turn around, stop manufacturing memory cards, and go ahead with microprocessors. So they walk back into their office and starts to develop and market and sell microprocessor. Intel. Now Intel, no one can touch. AMD, they came. They are one of the major player for micro enterprise, but Intel is still the market leader. All right. How does that happen? It happened because they move out from their box. If they were there in their office, they would have never thought about developing microprocessors. They would still be inside their box. They cannot think beyond their box, beyond the walls of their office. But if they move out from their office, they can start to think freely and bring in something which is much more uh, business feasible and viable type of business. Nowadays, if you look at the Intel, they are so much into creativity that they used to have a slogan, today is so yesterday. It's a very innovative statement. Today is so yesterday. Whatever today we have, it's old. They're looking into the future. So Intel it's a kind of an icon for innovations. Okay. So how do they become innovative? By moving out from their box, having a different point of view. All right. That is how they become creative. How do we become creative? Can we think of and do the opposite? That may be a very good way of being creative and bringing some innovation into our lives. All right. I'm having two pictures here. Both of them are doing the same thing. They are jumping the high jump, one of the athletic event we have in the Olympics and other games. Okay, high jump. Before 1956, if you can look at my cursor, this is the way they used to jump high jump. They used to dive face down across the bar, and this is the way they used to do high jump in the even in the Olympics. But in 1956, there was one person named Dick Fosbury. He's an American athlete, and what he did is that on 1956 in New Mexico Olympics, Summer Olympics, in the high jump event, he came and did the opposite of what everyone was doing in the past year and even in that event that year. He did the opposite. Instead of jumping face down, he jumped face up, like this picture. And by doing the opposite of what everyone was doing, he brought in the gold medal and broke the world record for high jump. How did he do it? By doing the opposite. See, we have this kind of instance even in the business case studies. Let me share one. In the 1900s, there are many players manufacturing cars. Like we have the Ford, we have the General Motors, we have the Rolls Royce. All right. Those were the main players of automobiles during the time. And during the time, the process of manufacturing a car is like this. The car frame, the chassis, let's imagine this is the car frame. They place the car frame here, all right? And the engine department would come from that side, that corner of the factory. They would bring the engine here and they would install the engines here. And after their work is finished, they move away. Then the wheel department would come from the other corner of the factory. They would bring and attach the wheels to the car frame. Then after that, the glass people would come and they would attach the glass. Then maybe after that, the person who are placing the seats, the interiors, they would do their work. Then after that, maybe the painting team would come and do the painting of the car there itself. So practically, in other words, we're trying to say that everyone is approaching the car to make it a finished product. Henry Ford, he said, let me do the opposite. As of now, all of the companies are approaching the car to make it a finished product. What if the car approaches everyone, the opposite of what everyone was doing at that stage? What would happen? So he brought in a new method of manufacturing a car called the assembly line. So what he did is that he lined up the different departments of uh, his industry. One place, the first place, let's say he was having the engine department. Then the second place, the wheel department. Then the seat department, the glass department, then the paint department in one line. All right. Then what happened now is that he was trying to bring in his theory of doing the opposite of what everyone is doing. So the car frame would come from this side, it would shift, it would move here and stop at the engine department. There they would put in the engine, they will finish off their work, then it starts to move to, to the wheel department. They will do their work, then it will start to move to the seat department, then the glass department, then to the paint department. So practically right now, the car is approaching everyone instead of everyone approaching the car. That is the opposite of what everyone was doing. And that became very, very innovative. It is a revolution, actually. It, it really changed the way cars were manufactured. In fact, Henry Ford, he saved lots and lots of time in manufacturing one car. In fact, the car they manufactured during the time is called the T Ford model. And Henry Ford, the Ford company itself, they became popular because of the T Ford model, because the manufacturing of one car has been reduced to so much of time that that the car became cheaper, way cheaper than the other cars in the market. Now, previously, before, people were, only the very well-to-do people can afford cars, but now the common people can afford car because the car became cheap. The car became cheap because the time of manufacturing one car became so less. So doing something opposite became very, very feasible, became very, very profitable for the Ford company. In fact, measure of the car market has been captured in the 1920s, 1930s by the Ford company because their car manufacturing technique is revolutionary. In fact, all of the car manufacturing industry starts to emulate what Henry Ford has been doing right now, the assembly line. Doing the opposite, it did change the world, the business world, in fact. So it is always good to start to think and do the opposite of what general people are doing. Then we can be creative. All right. But don't take it too much overboard. I have to move a little bit faster because I'm having one or two slides and I would like to finish off by 11:15. And the next thing, how we can be creative by asking something, asking, have an inquiring mind. Rudyard Kipling is one of the philosopher poet. He has a poem he called, in one of the poem he said, I keep 6 honest serving men. My friends, right? They taught me all I knew. Their names are what, why, when, how, where, and who. See, if you start to ask questions, you tend to develop much more higher level of understanding. Even in class, you guys, if your students ask questions, then you can probe into a higher or a different level of discussion, is not it? The same thing. It is always good to ask something. Um, they used to say if you ask what or why in one particular event at least 5 times, then you would start to think way beyond the level of what general people are thinking. Ask questions. I have one friend who is the managing director of Mizofed right now. His name is Pumazwala. He's one of the first and the few graduates from IIM, Indian Institute of Management, we have till date, and one of the most resourceful person I've known in my 40 odd years I have lived in this world. And he's having this particular mindset a lot, asking questions. He would even ask questions for jokes. You crack joke, you laugh, this person will not laugh. He will say why or what. And you have to explain the joke. And if you start explaining the joke away, then all the funniness of the joke itself is gone. But that particular, practice is good because, like I said, when you start asking questions, new level of understanding happen. Say, for example, we are having a meeting and we are having a brainstorm because we're going to have an event, let's say, and the chairman would say, all right, we have to make a banner, and this banner, who would volunteer to make this banner? And one of the person, let's say Mr. X, would stand up and he would say, uh, I propose to have, I propose the number of 5 volunteers to go ahead with this preparing of the banner. And the chairman would say, yes, that is a very good idea. Then Pumaswala would stand and say to that Mr. X, why do you say five? Why do you say 5%? And that Mr. X would not know how to answer because he doesn't have any reason to say five. Maybe just because five came into his mind, he's just saying 5 people. Then Pumazola would not stop there. He would say, why don't you say four? Why don't you say six? Why exactly five? All right. And this Mr. X would be sweating and sweltering and, red in his ears because he did not thought about why not four, why not six, why exactly five. Pumazola doesn't have a problem with five. But he is asking that question because is there any underlying reason why five has to be mentioned? That new understanding or that new level of thought is making us everyone very careful when Pumazola is around. All right. But when he starts inquiring, then solutions came out. Lots and lots of solution would come out. And that is a place where new ideas would come into play. New solution would come into play. In fact, creativity is answering of questions, is not it? Answering of a question, maybe in a form of needs, maybe in a form of demands, all right? Maybe in the form of wants, but it did answer questions. So asking question is one of the fuel of being creative. Next would come to this slide. I have only one more slide after this. Problems. Problems are opportunities in disguise. Or let me rephrase it. Problem is the source of creativity. Uh, in 2015, I did receive a letter from the President of India, uh, Pranab Mukherjee, the then President of India. I was surprised and amazingly, happily surprised that I received a personal letter from the President of India. And it was an invitation to the Rashtrapati Bhavan uh, to participate in one of the discussion of the conveners and the chairmen of innovation cells in the university, especially central universities, NITs, and IITs. So I was included in that list and I was invited. And I was very happy that I post that picture, that the photograph of the letters in my Facebook. And people comment, "Oh, great, great, great." I was thinking I was great also. But then I traveled to Delhi on February 15th, sorry, March 5th of 2015. We had a meeting there in the Rashtrapati Bhavan. They really strip you off before going into the Rashtrapati Bhavan because of security reasons. And I was sitting there in one of the table drinking my own tiffin, I mean, drinking a tea, minding my own business, sitting there. And and what happened was that there was a person who was walking around the crowd. There are other people, chairmen and professors of innovation clubs of universities, innovation cells of universities. And I was one of the youngsters sitting there with a chinky eye, like the northeastern Chinese type face now, this with this kind of face sitting there. And this person was walking around and was just smiling at me always whenever he come across my table. And I was thinking, who is this person always coming across and giving me a smirky look? And after 10-15 minutes, the door was opened and one big army person, I mean the security person, made an announcement that all the guests should walk into the other room, which is an auditorium, a kind of a round table meeting place where the president of India is sitting. And the president of India is already there in that meeting room. So all of us, we entered, we went into the meeting room and we seat ourselves. And what happened is that this person who was walking around and smiling around, he was walking straight towards the president of India. And I was thinking, who's this person going near to the president of India? And when he approached the president stood up and facilitated that person with a big garland of flower and some gifts. Then I start to really think, all right, seriously, who is this guy? Then the president of India, he made an announcement that this person is the Nobel Prize winner, Professor Muhammad Yunus. Then I was like, wow, who is this person? I was thinking, I was reading because previously my service was with the rural development, and I have been reading a lot about the microfinance and all these things. And Muhammad Yunus, he's the Muhammad Yunus, and this person was the one who was walking around and smiling, and I didn't even, I mean, grab him by his neck and I want to take a photo. I did not even ask him to take a photograph with me, but this person was there in flesh and blood in that room, all right? And the president asked him to give a speech, and he did give a beautiful, a very, very beautiful speech. He said he was very lucky. He was very lucky to be there to be born in Bangladesh. I said, what? How can a person be fortunate to say himself, to consider himself lucky to be a person uh, born in Bangladesh? And he continued his speech, this person. He said, see, I'm fortunate to be born in Bangladesh because every day, whenever I walk out from my door, I'm surrounded by problems. Again, there's another level of what in my mind, you know? What is this person saying? But he's Muhammad Yunus, so I have to listen him through. So what he said, all right, whenever I walk out from my room, problems on the left, problems on the right, problems on the front, back, problems everywhere. I look at the ladies, the women, oppressed. I look at the farmers, the kisan, totally deprived of everything. So I used to think, these people, this marginalized section of the society, the women, the farmers, let them be empowered. And he said the only way they can be empowered is to help them have money on their hands so that they can have their own thing. They can have their own esteem. But when we approach the bank on behalf of the ladies, on behalf of the farmers, none of them would be willing to give money to this particular section of the society. Then He said, I did the unthinkable. He said, I am not a finance person. I am not a banker. Had I been a finance person or a banker, I would have 100 reasons not to start off a bank. But since I know that these sections of the society needs a bank, a way of finance, I start off with the Grameen Bank, he said. He brought in the Grameen Bank into reality. And that model of Grameen Bank has been very, very, successful in Bangladesh, that it has been copied and brought into many, many nations, including India. We have the self-help groups model. We have all these things. All of these are actually from the mind, from the framework of the Grameen Bank. So how do this beautiful idea of bringing or empowering weaker sections of the society came into being? From problems. So problem is the seed of opportunity. In every problem is a seed, a diamond, a gem inside the problem shell. So if you can crack the problem, there is always opportunity. I was just mentioning that I was there in the State Rural Development Service before I joined the university. I did get the chance to travel a lot. I did get a chance to do some evaluative work for the central government during the time. And one of my assignment is to evaluate the Integrated Wasteland Watershed Development Program. During the time, it was the IWDP, or sometimes it's called the Hariali also. And one of my assignment is in the western side of Mizoram, Mamit district. And there, under the IWDP project, they were flourishing with the oil palm because there was an oil palm factory there in that place, in that district, run by the Godrej Agrovet. So what happening was this: everyone wants to do oil palm cultivation farming. And so oil palm seedlings and saplings were distributed all through Mamit during that time. It was around 2007, 2008. And they had very beautiful rainwater harvesting structures and all these things. And they had a very good, project director also. But I left the rural development scenario for a very long time, and only 1 or 2 years back, I got a chance to give a lecture to the civil service officers across the state. And I was discussing about the oil palms with the officers there in that training. And some of the officers from that district, Mamit district, shared that many of the farmers are ceasing to do their oil palm farming because they are having a problem of transportation, because much of their farm is very farly displaced from the factory, main factory. They are having a problem of getting the oil palms, the seeds, the fruits, and transporting them down to the factory. So many of them are starting to cut off their oil palms and do some other cash crop cultivation. Then I asked them, see, that is your problem? But seems to me it's a problem. It's not a problem. It's an opportunity, because according to the scheme of the watershed development, for those non-land users, there are other provisions of creating self-help group, and I think you can get a 407 truck or a mini truck for the self-help group, and they would fit into the problem, and it will become an opportunity. It will become a good business, because at the end of the day, everyone is going to have a win-win situation. The farmer is going to have their oil palms, harvested, and this person who are operating the trucks, the self-help group, would be having a business of transporting this oil palm down to the farm, the factory place. So it's a win-win situation. If you look a little bit deeper into the problem, there's always an opportunity. That is what we discuss. And they say, all right, we did not even think about that. So I don't know what kind of thought they have after that training, but at least We discussed that problems can always be opportunity. The same thing. Creativity, almost always creativity or innovation is an answer. It's always an answer to a problem. Okay. I think I still have 5 or 10 minutes. The last slide. All right. So sorry. So the last part is being critical. Evaluation of others. All right. Uh, See, ladies are good in this thing. Men, we are not good in these things. We meet, we said hello. I used to say Pubatendu hello. I used to say Pumanoj hello. That's it. That is happening with men only. But if ladies see each other and they greet themselves hello, during the few seconds of hello, they can observe everything, all right? From head to toe, head to toe. They can see what kind of makeup you're putting on, what kind of necklace you have, what kind of clothes, what kind of brand of bags you're having, all right? What kind of nail polish you're having on your nails, what kind of shoes you're wearing, your shoes are clean or not. All those things can be observed by ladies within just a few seconds and nanoseconds of hello. And that is a good thing, actually, being critical. During my college days, we had a speaker from the industry. Her name is uh, mm, 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 Kiran Mazumdar Shaw. She is one of the top 50 most influential ladies, women in the whole world. You can look up to her in Google. She is the founder and the chairman of Biocon Industries. And she came to give a lecture to us, the postgraduate students there in our college, and she was sharing about uh, how observing things can become a source of creativity. He said, whenever I go to my office, from my house to my office, 15 kilometers every day, she said, I'm getting at least 150 new ideas. I would like to say what and raise my hand, but she is a millionaire, maybe a billionaire also, I don't know. But who am I to ask that kind of, question? Who am I to doubt that she's getting 150 ideas every day? But she shared something like this. On my way to the office, there used to be a traffic jam almost always on the highway. And when I'm stuck there in the traffic jam, I would just look outside my window and I would see one person selling fruits on a table. Then I used to evaluate that person's business. Oh, that the way that person is displaying the fruit is good. I try to appreciate some of the things. Then after that, I would critically look at some of the places where improvements can be done. Like, oh, the placement of the fruits can be done not in that way, maybe in this way. What about the wheels of the table? Can it be placed a little bit this side so that it can be more convenient? So she starts to make a modification, visual modification of that particular food vendor. And during 5 to 10 minutes of being stuck there in the traffic jam, I would have, uh, you know, multiple ideas, new ideas on how to develop that to develop that particular existing business. So if you're someone who can be critical like that, when you look at other people or other business, be critical. What are the bad points they have? And those bad points are going to be a place where you can make adjustments, modifications, manipulations. Then you can bring up something new. So those are the ways you can be creative. I'm just explaining all these things because that is the way creativity works. It's not something, it's not rocket science, I feel. You can be creative as of now. But creativity is not the end of it all. Creativity is just the fuel for innovation. This is a small quotation made by Henry Ford. He said, look at creativities, look at ideas, but ask these questions, these three questions. Is it really needed? Is it practical? And is it commercial? If you put a tick mark on all these questions, then your creativity would fit to become an innovation. And with that, I would conclude my lecture. I think I have crossed a little bit. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think there may be questions, but at least I hand over the talk to Pubartendu or Pumanoj. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madina, for a very nice presentation, very lively presentation. Although, as you expected, there is no question in the chat box or the Q&A. One question is there.
Yes, sir.
Should I read or you will read?
I have seen this, sir. I was just seeing this. I was just reading this.
Okay.
I think innovative ideas can be put into practice. I'm just going to share one example which I have. We are from the Central University, so it is there. The rules and regulations are there. But what I feel is that, see, if you look a little bit beyond your everyday work, say, for example, in our university, in 2014, I think, the then Vice Chancellor Put Tuanga initiated the innovation club, and I was put as the convener. And our team would discuss about how many things we can bring into the university. And one of the things which we have seen is that, all right, there's a scheme run by the Department of Science and Technology, especially the National Science and Technology Entrepreneurship Development Board. They are running a scheme called Technology Business Incubator. So let us approach the DST, and maybe we can bring in some new scheme to our university, something which is new to our university. And we applied blindly. We filled up the form and we made a presentation to the concerned authority. We went to IIM Ahmedabad for a presentation because they called us there. We made a presentation, and at the end of the day, they gave us the project to the tune of 10.75 crore to start off the technology business incubator. In fact, we are the first one in the East India to have a technology business incubator in a university. And this TBI, this incubation center, has become one of the pioneer in the Northeast, that we have been helping the IIT Guwahati. The IIT Guwahati people, they came and they studied our incubation center model, and I think they have done their own incubation center. Arunachal Pradesh, Rajiv Gandhi University representative, they came to our incubation center. They studied our projects. They studied how we did, and I think they went back and they applied for the particular incubation center. So as a teacher, not just as a teacher, just if you can be more innovative, look into many other things. We can bring something which is not there in our university. We can add a set to our university. That, as a teacher, I think, especially in the university, I think it is the way me and my team, we have contributed because of innovation to our university. We have built a 10.75 crore asset to our university. So I think as a teacher, we can be innovative. I'm not telling you to apply for those kind of things, but at least think. I cannot dictate anything, but if you can think a little bit beyond our teaching assignment, our our nomenclature, there are things without crossing the border of the guidelines. There are many things which we can bring to our teaching, teaching practice.
Madina, there is no more question, but as per your presentation, one thing came to my mind. Actually, I feel sometime like this. The way we teach our children as parents or sometimes as teachers, we kill their innovation and creativity. If you see a child of 2 years, 3 years, they used to ask everything what and why, everything why. Initially, we feel very happy and we reply, but after that, we get irritated and we start diverting it or stopping them. Same thing happens in school. When they ask many questions, teachers say that don't speak, sit quietly and this and all that. Finger on your lips kind of thing.
Yes.
Tight-lipped. So is it not a way we are killing the innovation in the process of teaching? How to come up?
I actually, sir, innovation, our present, orthodox way of teaching, I think we kill creativity. In fact, one of the research which we have done with the state government, the GETT, General Enterprising Tendency, one of the tendency which we studied is creative tendency. And what we did find is that, there's a significant negative correlation between age and level of, creativity tendency on one hand, and on the other, age, creativity tendency and level of education, negative significant correlation. So what you have just observed is that, yes, I feel education did kill a bit of creativity, because when we are younger, we tend to think more wildly. We tend to think more bizarre. So we used to be creative, but asking questions, the same problem I'm having with my kids. So, but if you look at the education system, I think everything is very well defined. If I walk into my classroom, everything I can predict from the classroom before entering. Chairs will be arranged properly and neatly, straight line. The walls would be perfectly right angled. Those things are there already. So creativity, it's not there. If you look at government offices, you can predict how government office would look like. But if I got the chance to go into the Google office, I got the chance to go visit the T Hub. It's way out of this particular type of things. So I think education, I think it has to revamp. I don't know whether I answer any of your question, but I'm just talking about how education and all these things, we have to revamp a lot on creativity, dictating notes, answering everything. That may not be a good way of building up, creativity. I don't know whether I answer your question, but I'm just reflecting on your question, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Yes. My question is actually not a question. That is an observation, and all of us, all the participants, and you, everyone is observing.
Yes, sir.
The problem is how to come out of that, how to think out of box. We are bound by the syllabus. We have to finish the syllabus in given time frame. There is no innovation in that. Same thing every year I'm teaching, and we are learning by heart and writing a new question paper and finish.
Hmm.
So it's a mechanized way of teaching. So we need to have some liberty, some out of box teaching.
Yes, sir.
So
Very
that
true.
is a thing we have to think how we can do within this framework. How come we can make some changes?
Yes.
Now it is very much possible with technological advancement. We can do something, some technological things we can use in classroom teaching. And some
Hmm.
kind of innovation we need.
Yes, sir.
So okay, thanks for your presentation and thanks for giving your observations and responses to the questions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for giving 1.5 hours this
Yes,
morning.
yes, sir.
And thanks for all your support. And in future also we'll be calling you for some other programs and some other events.
Yes,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for
sir.
joining.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
I'll
you,
leave.
Kumar.